when you talk about an exercise session, one isolated single exercise session, there are two factors to consider: the intensity factor and the duration factor. Duration is the amount of time spent training, and intensity refers to the percentage of momentary effort. And this term intensity tends to be misunderstood. Some people think that by increasing the duration of their workouts, they're increasing the intensity, which is ridiculous. It's just the opposite. Every time you increase the duration, you have to decrease the intensity. These two things exist inversely to each other. They're mutually exclusive. You can't have a lot of one and a lot of the other. It's demonstrated by a very simple inverse ratio graph. It demonstrates the universal relationship that exists between intensity and duration. This is not a brainchild of Mike Mentzer. This is a basic law of physics. Universal principle. It applies to all activities, not just weight training, chopping down trees, studying books, sex, whatever. The more intensely you do something, whenever the intensity increases a little bit, the duration has to decrease a lot. And if you want to build big muscles fast, then you've got to train as intensely as possible, because that is the one factor most responsible for building mass. And if you want to build mass, you've got to train for short periods so you can train intensely. That's the nature of the relationship. You can train either hard or you can train long, but you can't train hard and long. It's impossible. Not because I say you can't, but because it's impossible. Is there anybody here who can sprint for a mile? What's the longest sprint in Olympic competition? Anybody know? 400 meters. Why isn't there an 800-meter sprint or a mile sprint? It's laughable, yeah, because it's ridiculous. It's impossible. Just like it's impossible to train hard for 2 hours. Nobody can train really hard. When I talk about hard, I mean maximally. All-out effort for 2 hours. If you train as hard as you possibly can, each and every set, then the majority of you in here cannot train in 30 minutes. I'm talking about as hard as you possibly can. Every set to total failure with minimal rest in between sets. Just enough rest between sets so you can go to your next set, resume your next set, and go to muscular failure as opposed to cardiovascular failure. That is, not rush so fast that your cardiovascular system becomes the limiting system. You want to go to muscular failure. If you do that, you will probably not train in 30 minutes.
How long might it be between? Would that be 30 seconds?
It doesn't matter. It's going to vary from muscle group to muscle group because of the demands placed on the cardiovascular system. You rest just long enough between sets so you can resume the next set and go to muscular failure as opposed to cardiovascular failure. In other words, if you're doing your legs and you're going from one set to another, and the second set terminates because you're breathing so hard, as opposed to true muscular failure in the legs, then you didn't rest long enough. See what I'm saying? Any questions about this? It's really not, it's not even debatable. It's fact, not theory. It's immutable. I mean, this is one of the basic laws of nature. You ever compare the calves of a sprinter to the calves of a distance runner? I use this example all the time, but it's one of the best there is. The sprinter always has a large muscular calf. The distance runner always has a stringy little calf. Because he overtrains, he's chronically overtraining. And I would venture to say the majority of bodybuilders, top bodybuilders today who are training over 2 hours a day, would look like distance runners if they weren't taking steroids. They're so grossly overtrained. But again, a lot of this can be chalked up to mental masturbation. All of the academics aside, what really counts is that you get your ass in the gym and train hard. And if you're training 6 to 8 hours a day, you're not training hard. It's laudable from one standpoint. You're devoted, you're willing to be diligent and put a lot of work in, but that has nothing to do with progress.